It is Book Review Sunday, and today we are back to our traditional fated mate stories, kind that I seem to read the most. And I have two new books to talk about today, so let's get started. Our first book is called Angel Unchained by J.S. Wilder. So, this one is a combination of science fiction and fantasy. So, in this world, Earth became inhabitable sometime in the past before the story begins. And humans left the planet, at least those who survived, left the planet and found lives elsewhere in the galaxy and discovering other life forms, etc. So when the story begins, even those surviving humans have died off, and for the most part. And so now humans are on the endangered species list in the universe. And we have our main character, Samantha, who is a human female, and she is simply just trying to survive. She's never lived on Earth. She's not from the generation that fled the planet, so she knows nothing of where she comes from. I mean, she knows about Earth, but she knows nothing via experience. So, with humans being on the endangered species list, humans kind of become a novelty for the wealthy, if you know what I mean. And Samantha ends up working at this Earth inspired, for lack of a better term, amusement park. And so, one aspect is that they've built these fake towns to look like an Earth city or an Earth town. And humans get hired as actors to do things so that other alien species can come and enjoy what Earth used to be like on a planet that isn't actually Earth. So Sam's job in this amusement park is to take aliens on a drive in classic human cars and then also to give them driving lessons so they get a chance to drive the car as well. So we jump right into the story where Samantha is in the car with a teenage alien and he is not driving safely and she is hanging on for dear life. Well, things are about to take a tragic turn when this teenage alien is about to run over a toddler of another alien species. And Samantha has to reach over and cut the wheel and hopefully get the car out of the way before they hit the toddler. And they end up hitting a light pole or something like that, and she goes unconscious. And she wakes up in the hospital with handcuffs cuffing her to the bed. She is under arrest for what happened. Um, she's to blame for everything. And she tries to defend herself. And of course, this teenage alien has wealthy parents who are going to make everything go away for him and make everything difficult for her. So she ends up getting a very ridiculously over the top sentence for the crime that she committed. And she ends up getting sentenced to the worst prison in the galaxy, which is on a completely other planet. So, what the author has done here is take, this idea that we have from like Alcatraz and Azkaban and Harry Potter, other prison movies, and it's not just on an island or in a remote part of a state. The entire planet is the prison. And so Sam gets there and she gets placed in her cell, and her cellmate is a male, an alien, and we're going to learn that his name is Knox. And so Knox has been in prison for a while, and he believes that Sam is there because the guards of the prison want the two of them to mate and get Sam pregnant so that they can use the baby for um, some evil purpose because of the type of alien that Knox is. And so Nox is what humans would call an angel. So angels are not heavenly beings in this world building. They are simply another species that live on their own planet. So Sam and Nox are going to fight their feelings for each other and eventually give in and try to escape the prison. So let's go over my review. So I give this book 4 stars. Right away, I love this fantasy and science fiction mix with that angels are aliens and they're not some heavenly being created by the Christian God. I thought that was really cool. And especially as we go through the book and learn about um, their biology, their physiology, their history, their culture, their traditions, etc. It was very cool. It was a great twist on angels. Next, this idea of a corrupt government and prison system. Those always do well for me, especially if the main characters fight it and try to make a difference. So Sam learns that her prison sentence was over the top, like the reader would imagine, right? Um, what her, first of all, the teenage alien absolutely should have been um, blamed for the car wreck, but his parents' money made that go away. But what made Sam's sentence so much bigger than it should have been, really, she, for something like that, she just maybe should have gotten probation, but really that's more of a her boss deciding whether to fire her or not. But the parents, the boss, and the judge are all in cahoots with the prison, and the prison had asked them to find um, different female species to send to the prison so that they could experiment with crossbreeding them with these angel species that they had captured. And so they thought, hey, human will fetch a great price, right? Especially since they are endangered. So that's how Sam, she learns later, that's how she ends up in the prison. Not that what she did was actually prison worthy. And this is a soft enemies to lovers, or at least I'm going to call it that. I've never heard that phrasing before, but because Sam and Nox aren't enemies, but they definitely don't trust each other when they first meet, when they're first placed into this prison cell together. Nox believes that Sam knows why she's there and that she is biding her time and is going to try to seduce him. And so all of the attraction he feels for her, he believes is her doing, that she is trying to manipulate him so that she can get pregnant by him. And so because of that, he treats her very, very coldly in the beginning. And Samantha, on the other hand, is terrified of him. He's big, he's strong. She's never seen his species before. And he's treating her like garbage. And so she does not like him. She's scared of him and wants to stay away from him. But they'll both eventually give in. I do wish that the ending was a bit longer. Once they do accept each other, everything just kind of flies by super fast. And um, my personal preference when it comes to romance is that I do want the pacing of the chemistry and of the falling in love and the physical intimacy to be realistic and believable. And it just kind of, you know, was shoved in at the end. And the heat level is sensual or 3 flames. Book number 2 for today's review is called Never Again by Malgorzata Uchto. And so this is your typical fated mate werewolf romance. So we're going back to the start, what started this reading journey for me of finding all these different fated mate stories are werewolves, fated mates. So Never Again is about a human named Mandy and a werewolf alpha named Ethan. And while Mandy is a human, she knows that werewolves exist, and she has actually met her first mate already, and he rejected her because she was human. He didn't think that a human was strong enough to be a Luna. That's what the female alpha is called. And so she, kind of moves on from that and just kind of lives her life. And her best friend is a werewolf who meets his mate, and his mate is the beta of some pack on the other side of the country. And so, since he doesn't have a pack, he automatically moves into the pack with his mate. And so he invites Mandy to come with him, not forever, but just for a visit so they can kind of transition away from seeing each other all the time because they're best friends and he has to move on the other side of the country and her job is keeping her there. So the alpha of this new pack is out of town when Mandy first shows up. But the alpha is a widower, and his son falls in love, his young son, I should clarify that, is like 5 years old. He falls in love with Mandy, and they develop like this, you know, parental child bond. And so, of course, that's foreshadowing that Mandy is going to be the second chance mate of this kid's dad. So Alpha Ethan returns home and he realizes that Mandy is his second chance mate, and he wasn't really ready for that because he's still kind of mourning the loss of his first mate. And Mandy is positive he's just going to reject her because she's human, because that's already happened with another alpha. And so she's like, just get it over with, reject me, I'll accept it. And he's like, why would I reject you? I mean, I'm not thrilled about this, but I'm not just going to reject you. Let's see if we can make this work. So she stays in the pack and they start to get to know each other and obviously feel intense chemistry. And he has kind of an ex-girlfriend who thought that he would pick her as his chosen second mate. And so she hates Mandy, and there's going to be a lot of drama and fights and attempted kidnapping and stuff like that as Mandy and Ethan fight to stay together. So let's go through my review. I also give this one 4 stars. And I like the second chance mate plot line. I do enjoy that with some of the shifter romances. And the reason why is because this is kind of the better option when the author chooses to have the first mate either be mean or abusive or conceited or whatever. Because I don't like it when they forgive that awful person. And so giving them a second chance mate is the better path, I think. So I like that. And the pacing is really good. Just each chapter just moves the plot along, moves the story along. Because this is read on one of those serial reading apps, Dream, the goal of those apps is to encourage the authors to have as many words as possible. So they'll like give you the goal of like, get 100,000 words down in a month and you can get a $100 bonus or whatever. And so because authors are trying to do that, because they're encouraged to make these stories as long as possible and as many chapters or episodes as possible, a lot of them put in these random scenes where the characters will like go shopping for nothing. Like, I understand if like prom's coming up and so then you have like a shopping for the perfect dress montage, but it's literally just like, let's go shopping, and then they go, and so we get a full chapter of them shopping, and then a full chapter of them eating in the food court, and then a full chapter of them getting in a fight with someone at the food court, just so that they can extend the word count for whatever bonus the app is offering. Um, and this author did not fall for that. Every single chapter is meaningful and provides pertinent stepping stones in following the plot and following the storyline and following character development. So there was one plot hole that really bugged me. I was still able to finish the story and obviously give it four stars, as you can see. Um, so I mentioned at the beginning that even though Mandy's a human, she knows about werewolves before her story starts, before the reader gets to start her story with her. And it's it just take it's as you can see, I'm struggling to like even describe it. It was so confusing and frustrating for me. So when Mandy's a teenager, I think she was she in foster care? I think she's in foster care or is full on orphan. I can't remember those details. But she doesn't have human parents actively taking care of her. And she ends up in the woods, and she um, gets essayed by a group of men. And a wolf rescues her. And the wolf is the alpha of a nearby pack. And so he takes her into the pack to, you know, get the doctors to check her out and make sure she's okay and blah blah blah. And so as they do that, they learn that she literally has no family and she has no one. And so he decides to adopt her as his younger sister because he's like in his early 20s, so it'd be weird if he adopted her as her dad. So, and his parents are nearby, and so they kind of adopt her as her parents as well. And so she spends the remaining of her teenage years in a wolf pack, and the pack accepts her, and she becomes one of them. She's just simply human. And so her best friend, who's a wolf from another pack when she's an adult, when this story starts, has no idea that this and alpha in this other pack is her brother. And her brother is like some well-known alpha that other wolves look up to, and he holds like these training conferences at his pack and stuff like that because he's an amazing fighter. And no one knows that she exists, even though he's this amazing alpha, and she keeps his identity a secret from her best friend and then from her mate when she meets Ethan. And Ethan eventually learns, but I mean, it's like over halfway through the book. I thought it was strange. And if she had eventually explained, like, why didn't you tell me this was your brother? There's no conversation like that. We have no idea why she keeps this secret and why her brother, is also keeping this secret. So, but it didn't take away from the larger plot. It was just simply strange to me. And then I do need to give you a trigger warning. There are 3 essay scenes. They're not done by Ethan, so don't worry. It's not one of those. It's not a dark romance. And the author does not describe the actual actions. It kind of, tapers off. But then when we get back into the story, you see the victims are described in their physical condition and then also their feelings, how they're feeling after they experience that trauma. So just to let you know that is in there. And then our heat level for the consensual intimacy moments is sensual or 3 flames. So if you like science fiction and fantasy meshing together, check out Angel Unchained. And if you like your typical fated mate werewolf romance, check out Never Again. If you've read either of these two books, I would love to read in the comments what you thought about them. If you haven't and you have recommendations for similar stories, please also put those in the comments. I would love some more stories to put on my to be read list. Also, hit that subscribe button so that you can know when the next episode comes out. And I will see you next week.